It seems like no matter how hard we work, no matter how efficient we try to be, there is always more to do than days in the week. And I'm including weekends here. If you know, you know. The technology that was supposed to reduce workloads has simply turned the old 9 to 5 into 24/7. That's left many of us wondering if there's a way out of the overwhelm. I'm Jane Singer, and welcome back to A Seat at the Table, where we sit down with industry leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs to get firsthand insights that will help us grow our careers or our business. Today we're joined by the fantastic Katherine Robinette, who shares some simple steps that we can take to, as she puts it, make work less work. With more than 30 years of experience supporting leaders through growth, restructuring, and organizational change, Katherine helps teams uncover the systems and processes that quietly create overwhelm and underperformance. On this podcast, she'll be sharing practical and actionable steps that any organization can take that will measurably reduce executive burnout, help teams regain traction, and rethink priorities so that workflows support greater productivity with less stress. And all without having to add more staff or make massive CapEx investments. So let's sit down with Katherine and find out how we can boost performance while reducing that soul-crushing overwhelm. Katherine, I'm really excited about having you on the show because I think that what you talk about is so relevant to what so many leaders are going through right now. I think so many people are facing this challenge to get people motivated at a time when I guess everybody sort of feels stuck or uncertain.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time to be in business for sure.
Now, you talk about, you say, well, why do leaders often mistake some of the problems for people problems? So I think, this is a very valid point. People think the problems in the organization typically have to do with their people. Tell me what you see happening around that.
Yeah, what I'm observing is that people are the most visible, and so they become the most likely culprits or targets for, this is a personality clash, or this person just is unmotivated, or they're lazy. And that's not always what's going on. When results slip, or deadlines are missed, or teams seem disengaged, it's really easy to put blame on individuals. And so the instinct is to coach harder, hire differently, push people more. But most of the performance issues aren't about motivation or capability. It's usually things like unclear priorities, or conflicting demands, or even conflicting um, instructions from supervisors, decision bottlenecks, stuff that is fixable but is system based, not people based.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think you're right. People are the most visible part of your organization. So it's very easy to think it's a people problem and not really dive deeper because it's sort of complex. It's not as obvious. Now, what do you see, from your experience with this? What are the signs that, it's the work or the structure of the organization, not the employees, that might need a redesign?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the same signs that make you think it's the people. When your best people are exhausted, when people are confused about priorities or where to spend their time, when urgency takes precedence over what's really important. Or if you end up constantly reworking things or revisiting decisions that you thought, we're done, we've made this decision, and then 2 weeks later you're talking about it again. Those are all signs that there is something in the structure that isn't supporting people to keep momentum, to build traction and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's really a good sign, things that you have to look for. And a lot of times people really don't know what to look for. So therefore, they just go with what seems to be the obvious. Now, you talk about the fact that leaders can fix a broken system without having to burn everything down. How would someone approach that? What would that look like?
So this is probably the biggest reason why leaders don't look at their system, because they're afraid that, well, we didn't design it right from the beginning. And so, what's it going to take to untangle this? And the reality is, it's usually small stuff. It's things like having a decision-making process that everybody knows and agrees to. It's
Mm.
things like having the leadership be clear about what is the North Star? What is it that we are really here to do? And everybody agrees, yeah, this is ultimately, why the company exists. We want to produce X. We want to have this effect on the universe. Things that are transferable to other people are system-based things, right? So, um, beliefs, values, processes, all of that stuff. If you can write it down, then you can sort of run simulations on, okay, is this going to be a bottleneck? Is this clear to people who are not me and not inside my head? Does it make sense to somebody else? Are they having the same picture in their head when I say these things that I have in my head? So often we think that we're being clear when the information is being put through somebody else's filter and it's coming out a different way entirely. And so being able to get that level of clarity solves like 90% of the what we perceive to be people issues.
That's such a good point. And I think we often don't think about that because we understand it in our minds so clearly. And especially if you're the one who built that system or were involved with building it, or you've been in that company for a long time, you often don't see it from the point of view of somebody who's less close to it. So I think it's great that you're calling our attention to that, that we need to actually go back and revisit that and think that, well, maybe other people don't really understand it the way we do.
Yeah, my favorite conversation to have with teams is what does done look like?
Oh, right.
And you would
Yes.
be you would be amazed at the variety of answers that you get. And yet, like that's what every leader is hoping that, okay, please take this from start to finish. It's like, well, they don't know what that looks like at the end. So let's be crystal clear to start with. And then they know, oh yeah, this is the goal. This is where we're trying to get.
Yeah, definitely. And I think nowadays we have so many things we're juggling, right? I mean, I think, all the digital developments that have come along have helped us in some ways, but also made things a lot faster paced and more complex. And we end up taking on more things. So you're right. We never really know when we've actually gotten to where we're supposed to be going. It just seems sometimes like it's endless. And people
Yeah.
oftentimes, I think, feel burned out. They're not sure what they're supposed to be doing, or, have they really done it, completed it? Now, you talk about how leaders can reduce burnout without hiring more people or lowering expectations. And I think that's really important because oftentimes, people on the team feel we just don't have enough staff, right? We're short staffed. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, leaders can reduce burnout by clarifying what matters most.
Mm.
So that urgency piece that we were just talking about, everything moving faster, tools making our work seem 24/7.
Right.
Leaders can cut some of that noise out by being crystal clear about, look, these are the priorities. This is where we want you to focus your attention. That'll cut probably 50% of the stuff that generates burnout feelings. And then they need to simplify decision paths. Decision making is probably the biggest bottleneck in the majority of our organizations, either because our decision makers are wishy-washy, and so we never know, is this decision really final or is it going to get revisited? Or
Mm.
because the decision maker isn't available when we need decisions made. So then they become the bottleneck. And then there's this third other decision-making conundrum where the culture of the organization is, yes, of course you have the authority to make that decision. And so you make that decision, and then you find out later that somebody else is like, no, they don't have the authority to do that. And so the decision gets revisited. All of that needs to get cleaned up. That'll solve probably another 20% of the stuff that's happening. And then the biggest one, and probably the hardest because we're so bad at this, is stopping work that no longer serves the purpose for which it was created. So my favorite example is there was a company that was putting out a newsletter, and it's laborious to put together a newsletter. You're getting
Yes.
articles from people inside, and I mean, you know, and the newsletter was getting like a 20% click rate.
Mm,
And I thought, why are we still doing this newsletter if nobody's reading it? So we could
right.
invest a whole lot of time in figuring out, why this newsletter isn't getting read and how can we improve it. Or we could say, wait a minute, maybe newsletters are like not the thing to do anymore. Maybe we can invest that energy somewhere else where we already have traction and we could just make it even better versus trying to fix something that is labor intensive, laborious, difficult. Um, People are having burnout because they can't come up with ideas. Maybe we should stop doing that and invest our energy somewhere else. So things like that, looking for the things that, well, we've always done this, that maybe you should stop.
Such a good point. And I think you're right. It's easy to get caught, right, on that hamster wheel of we've always done it, we have to continue to do it, or we've always done it this way. So therefore, we
Right.
have to continue to do it like that, as opposed to revisiting it and thinking, maybe we could take a different approach to this that would make it simpler. Or maybe, like you said, we just have to scrap it all together. And yet, nobody wants to even make that decision, right? Just like, well, yeah, we've always been doing it, so we better just continue. Such an important point. Now, you talk about the fact that what about practical steps that teams can take to regain traction when everything feels urgent? And I think that's something that we all face because it's easy to sit there and say, well, you have to take everything and prioritize number one, two, three, four. But sometimes you're working on multiple projects, so each project has a priority. How do you
Right.
balance all that?
Yeah, and so the first piece is understanding the difference between priority and urgency.
Mm,
They are not the same.
yeah, good point.
Priority is this is super important. Urgency is this has a pending deadline, something.
Right.
Urgency can also be this is super important for someone else. That doesn't
Ah,
necessarily mean
interesting.
it's your priority. Yeah. Yeah. So having clarity about, okay, what is truly important and having agreement on that can solve a lot of that. So the first step to regaining traction is to actually just slow down and take a moment and say, okay, what really matters right now?
Mm.
So you're after the importance piece, what matters, and you're after the timing piece, the urgency piece right now. They have to be in alignment. Or else why are you spending your time on it? Or do you have to be the one spending the time on it? Sometimes urgent things we take on because we feel the pressure, and yet there might be somebody else on the team who's better suited to deal with it, or they have capacity and you don't. So the first step is like slow down, really look at this. There's a tool called the Eisenhower matrix where it's
Oh,
just
yes.
four boxes, priorities and urgency, and it really helps clarify like, well, wait a minute, where am I spending all my time? Am I doing the things that are both high priority and high urgency? Or am I stuck in the urgency boxes that don't necessarily move the agenda? And then uh, it looks like flattening out the urgency. So because not everything is critical, right? So the next step is okay, having a hard conversation about is this truly urgent or was this really bad planning? And again, giving yourself and your team permission to say, well, maybe we need to stop this. Maybe this isn't maybe we're not ready for it. Um, maybe the timing is off. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this right now. Maybe this can wait 3 months. Those conversations don't tend to happen at an organizational level. They can happen at team levels. But when the team is working on something that affects a lot of people, they forget that, it's actually okay to say, no, we're not doing that yet. We're gonna wait. And
Yeah,
then
that makes a lot of sense.
the probably the last piece is for leadership to remove the obstacles that teams can't remove themselves. So
Mm.
decision delays, conflicting direction, unclear ownership. That's the kind of stuff that is crystal clear to leaders. Like, well, clearly I'm the one who owns this, or I'm the one that needs to make the decision on this. And then they stop being available. And that's not something the team can fix. So
Right.
leaders need to take a really hard look at themselves and say, okay, where am I causing problems?
That's a tough one, right? Very difficult sometimes. I suppose you have to be brave and ask the team maybe to see if they can point out to you, right? Where you may be actually getting in the way, which is sort of a tough challenge, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's the take a look in the mirror and maybe the problem ain't you.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
Yeah. Well, it often is. It often is. And you just don't even realize it. Some people don't want to admit it, and other people are just blind to it. And, they feel they're working hard. They're doing as much as they can. And they feel everything else around them is not supportive, when actually they're the one causing more of the problems, as you're pointing out.
Yeah, and it's often teams like to think like, well, my leader doesn't trust me, so that's why I don't have decision-making authority, or I don't have buying authority, or whatever. And it's like, no, it's not that. Your leader is so far removed from what it is that you're actually doing that it doesn't even occur to them that you have the full context to be able to make those decisions. So have the conversation about, look, I think I know what's going on. Here's the context. Am I correct? And then the leader will start like releasing some of that control and reins, because you two will have the same understanding of what's important, what's going on, what needs attention. Until they have that clarity from you that you truly understand, it's really hard to give up decision-making control.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think you're right. Both sides, in a sense, have to be working towards that ultimate goal of the leader being able to, sort of loosen the reins a bit for the people that report to that person. But like you said, it's a mutual trust, right? It's the leader seeing that you can handle it, and you at the same time taking maybe a more proactive approach to showing them what you can do.
Yeah, 100%. And asking for that context, right? I don't understand why this decision was made this way. Can you explain it to me? 2 or 3 times of that, and then you'll understand, like, oh, because these are the priorities, or these were the criteria. It's like, okay, yeah, I can reproduce that. Now I have the context.
Right, right. Now you talk about how you can make work look less like work. I'm interested. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a tall order, right? I make work less work. I don't think work has to be a slog. I think that
Right.
we are our own worst enemy when it comes to how we approach work. When work is less work, it looks like fewer conversations about confusion and more conversations about progress. When work is less work, it looks like decisions sticking instead of being revisited. Teams knowing what success looks like. Work flowing without constant check-ins, or without individual heroics. We tend to glamorize the individual who goes above and beyond just to get the work done. It's like, no, when work is less work, that stops being a barometer. That stops being something that we celebrate and starts being a signal for what it really is, of a system that's overloaded. Making work less work doesn't mean doing less. It means designing work so that people's effort actually produces the results that they're after, instead of friction.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting concept. And I'd actually never thought about it from that point of view, and until you've just brought it up. So I think it's something that everyone listening to this may be worth just sort of pausing and just giving that a little bit of thought, right? Just sort of, mulling that over a bit. Because I think when you think about it, as you've explained it, we can think, yeah, actually we could make some of these changes in our organization.
Yeah, and it works even at the team level, right? It doesn't have to be company wide. It can
Right.
be a small group of people saying, wait a minute, this is harder than it needs to be. How what are we doing that's making it hard on ourselves? How can we undo that? And really, once one team starts having success, it snowballs. People are like, I don't get it.
Mm.
Why are they so productive? Why are they so happy over there? It's like because they figured out how to reduce a lot of the friction.
Yeah, so interesting. And a lot of these things are things that actually anybody could really implement. There's no big CapEx that needs to be budgeted, right?
Correct.
You're not talking about overhauling the entire organization. It seems to me that you're pointing out things that are very achievable if you sit down and really look at it and try to address it.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece that's missing for most people is a conscientious but impartial perspective, right? You
Mm,
almost need somebody from the outside to look at it and go, okay, I'm seeing this. This looks odd,
right,
this could be something that we could fix because when you're in it, you can't see it. Not
right.
easily, but you can train yourself to start seeing, wait a minute, this is a pattern. This thing keeps happening. What is going on there? And that's the first question, right? Why do we keep experiencing it this way? There's got to be a better way. There is.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point, and you're right. Sometimes you really do need to bring someone in from the outside, um, just to maybe work with you just for a period of time to be able to help you go through the process and maybe point out things that aren't as obvious when you're knee deep in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because the solutions become very clear once you see where the bottlenecks are or where the friction is.
Absolutely. Now, just one more question. You mentioned that modern teams are struggling under what you refer to as factory era work structures. Explain that to me a bit.
Yeah. So the way that organizations developed,
Mm,
companies developed, hasn't really changed much since manufacturing days
wow.
because when the information age hit, the predominant business model was some genius founder with all the ideas and all the information in their head. Uh, and so the typical model became this is the founder model, right?
Right.
Um, so you either have the manufacturing model as your operating system. This is how we operate. We're producing a widget. Even if it's not a widget, it could be intellectual property. Or the founder has all the answers and all the ideas and the direction. And those are the two working models. Well, today's companies are often very far removed from the founder. It's been a generation or more since the founder has been around. So we don't have that living filter, or we're still operating under the we're trying to produce a widget mentality when we don't have a widget. We have intellectual property, or we're providing a service. So neither of those two systems are really conducive to having the most efficient processes for teams to work with. Um, one produces a bottleneck of decision making at somewhere along the decision making path. That's the founder model. And the manufacturing model treats everybody like a cog in the machine and assumes that they don't have independent thought and can't figure context out and can't take agency. That you must have approval in order to do things. It's like, well, that's not super efficient either. So yeah, so when I go in and look at companies' operating systems, those are the kinds of outdated modes that jump out at me. It's like, oh, I see. There's some manufacturing-esque era thinking still at work here in the processes. And those are the kinds of things that you can upgrade. I refer to them like software upgrades, right? We just
Right.
need to do a nice software upgrade to our operating system.
So interesting. Well, Katherine, you've shared so many excellent ideas, and you've gotten me thinking also about looking at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I think so many people listening to this are also sitting there, if they have a chance to take notes. Some of the people are not necessarily sitting at a desk listening to this, but I think a lot of people in their mind are also giving this some thought, and I think many of them probably want to reach out to you. Now, how can people find you? Where would be a good way to connect with you?
You can find me at my website, keystoneandraven.com. I have connection links there and also some free resources available under the resources page that are reflection tools designed to uncover a lot of what we just talked about.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm going to put the link in the show notes if you're listening to this as a podcast. If you are catching this on either YouTube or any video channel, you'll see it in the description area. I would really encourage anybody who is looking to upgrade what they're doing, or maybe just get back on the right track as we're heading into another year. Reach out to Katherine. Check the website. I think that's a tremendous resource, and give yourself that boost, in a sense, to get the year off on a better foot, right? Start on the front foot this year.
Yeah, and it's never too late. It's never too late.
Absolutely. Well, Katherine, thank you so much for joining us here today on A Seat at the Table. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us here today on A Seat at the Table. If you'd like to see some of the other episodes, head on over to our podcast website at seat.fm. That's SEAT.fm. There's also a link here in the show notes. And if you're thinking that you'd like to be a guest on the show, you'll find information on how to apply there as well. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Jane Singer, and I will see you in the next episode.